Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. Lola and I are just back from CES in Las Vegas. It was the best CES experience I've ever had. You're first, right, Lola?
Oh no, my second.
Your
And
second.
yes,
Okay,
wow.
so
Yeah.
before we get into it, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. So before we actually start talking, Lola, I want to actually take a look at sort of two quick high-level videos that one I shot and one you and I shot together. So the first one is the drone video, Jade. If you can cue that one up, it's just very short to give you a picture of. I shot this with my drone walking through. No sound on this. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And people, and it is, you can see people are really curious about that. And then let's take a look at the one that's says high shot. And this is just a picture of the AARP booth pavilion. And so you can see this big, huge stage that they had up there, Age Tech collaboration. Then we drift into Worthing. I'll probably tackle that one and another one. So it was massive. So Lola, let's just start with your impressions about CES.
So first off, CES is one of those things that is so overwhelming that you have to go multiple times in order to really get a sense of how vast it is and how much information that you're going to gather. I mean, I only hit the Venetian. I didn't even get to the convention center, and I was there for 3 days. And wow, I mean, so much to see, so many people to talk to. It takes a very special person who could actually go there, take it all in, not become overwhelmed, and to be able to have dozens of conversations with strangers. What was your experience, Steve? Do you feel that way? I mean, you're a talker, so it's easy for you, but for some people, they might start a conversation and go, wow, this is just too much for me.
So it is super overwhelming. The first time I went was about probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I sort of have this idea that I like to do something that's not one conference or something that's not senior living every year. So one of the things, I don't think I've ever confessed this on the air, but one of the things I actually want to go do is I want to go to auctioneer school. They're a week long, and I just think I have great admiration for what they do, and I just think it would help with public speaking and all that kind of thing. So that's on my list. Maybe next year. I don't know. But anyway, when I went the first time, it was so overwhelming. I swore I'd never go back. It was a terrible time. I lost my phone in an Uber, and it was all out of battery. So I did get it back, and the Uber lines. Because this was sort of early in rideshare, you'd have to wait 45 minutes for a rideshare, and it was terrible. And it took about 5 years before I finally said, well, maybe I'll go back. And by then I'd been to, I don't know, 50 or 80 conferences, sort of understood how to work conferences better. And my last couple of times, I've actually really enjoyed it a lot. And I had 5 days there. I got there 2 days early because there were 2 days of media stuff that's not open to the public. And that was good. I'd never done that before. But the other thing is, when I used to go, I'd run into in fact, the first year I ran into like 1 or 2 people I know, and I was really surprised by that. This year, I don't know. I ran into 30 people I know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
and I ended up with 4 or 5 appointments with people. They'd reach out, hey, can we get together? And so we'd get together. And so I needed at least another day and probably 2.
Yeah, I was surprised with how many people I saw that I knew, and people that are LinkedIn friends and colleagues that I'd never met in person that, reached out when they saw I was there and said, "Hey, let's meet at the AARP booth." And it was just a great experience from that standpoint. A couple of logistic things for me. The hotel we were staying at was down the street, so it was a 40-minute walk to get from the hotel to the Venetian. So adding that time and effort into actually getting to the conference. And then if you took a Uber or a Lyft, it was going to be $25 each way. So that adds expense to go into CES. So things for people to know about in case they decide to go next year.
I would add there are some transportation options that are available between the venues. The app and the conference is not real clear on that. The very first year I was there, I think I shared a cab or something with somebody one time. And it was sort of the beginning of the show. And he was telling me that he rented a car service for the entire show. And I'm looking at this because a car service every day for the entire show is probably $600 or $700, maybe $800, maybe $1,000. And that's probably not, it's probably $50 an hour, right? So probably $500 a day, maybe $800 because they're going to have a long day.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing $1 million deals and you need to be able to get around to be able to just pick up your phone and call and say, hey, I'm ready to come. And they're 5 minutes away and they come pick you up. I get why people do that. I'm not in that league to do that, I will say. But it was, it is a remark. Now, did you go to Eureka Park?
I did. Yes.
So talk to me about what Eureka Park is first.
Okay, so downstairs on the first floor. So you walk into the Venetian on the second floor, go through kind of a maze to get into the convention center, right? Or this is the convention center of the Venetian. And then you go downstairs. This is the first floor, and it is a very large open room that has hundreds of booths, and they are categorized mostly by country. So the section for Japan, the section for South Korea, the section for China, the section for Germany. So you can walk through and see technologies by country. And then there's a whole one section that is digital health. And that's where I really spent most of my time. But I did take a look at some of the other areas as well. And there's amazing things coming out of different countries around the world.
Yeah. And the Eureka Park is really this. I only got to spend about an hour there. It's always one of my favorite places to go. And it's just kind of wild, wild west. If you're a tiny little startup, I think if you're less than 5 years old and I don't know, less than $2 million of revenue, I don't remember what the requirements are. You can get a booth there for like $600. I mean, it's practically free. And so there's just all kinds of crazy, wonderful, wonderful stuff there. Just from a technology standpoint, I know we've got some clips and we're going to look at some specific things that both you and I looked at, but if you sort of look at it from an age tech perspective, any sort of high level things that you see people. So I'll give you a couple of, for instances. It seems like every other company is doing brain health.
Oh, yes. Yes, brain health is a big trend this year. Yeah.
And there are 1 million companies that have some version of a wearable medical device ring like that. That one's the Samsung one that's in production. So other?
Well, it's really interesting because I was focused on sleep health and hearing enhancements. But some of the other things that popped out that maybe are not specifically related to age tech, but the use of haptics, that's going to become big. So there's companies just focused on haptics which is when you touch something, it vibrates, right? So you touch a screen, it vibrates. You do something on your iWatch, it vibrates. You're playing a game, it vibrates, right? So this thing that's called haptics is going to be seen in more and more technologies, which I can see that it'll be useful for age tech as well, especially for people who may have a loss of sense of touch as they age or have different health conditions that cause it to be a little bit harder to feel, right? Something else that I saw a lot that's going to impact more on the enterprise level are video editing and voiceover. So if you think about how many companies out there are creating videos and need voiceover, There's AI that's going to impact both of that. That's going to make it more affordable and quicker turnaround time and less need for voiceover talent and editors. So crazy stuff that's going to impact tons of people's careers.
Well,
yeah.
So I can hardly wait to hear about the video editing. I did a little bit of very light video editing. I want to start by saying that I did the editing on these videos, so do not blame either Jada or Rachel, who are experts, and I am not. And I spent as little time as I could on them because I started at 8 o'clock this morning, and we've got 5 or 6 clips, including the first couple we took a look at. It
and I do want to say that Steve and I had so much fun making these videos at CES, so it was a good time. So there may be some mess ups and stuff, but who cares? We were having fun.
So you talked about hearing, and let's just take a look at the first hearing aid video that you starred in, Lola.
So hearing, I mean, it impacts everybody, especially as you grow older. In fact, there's some statistics that say that some people are misdiagnosed with dementia when in reality it's a hearing issue, and not enough people have access to having hearing tests or having affordable hearing aids. So that's what I was looking at as what are the technologies out there that are affordable. So.
Okay, let's take a look.
So one of the things that I've been looking for here at CES is a hearing solution. Not only does it impact my family, which is my father, he cannot afford regular hearing aids. And so this solution right here is about $400 on Amazon. And so I'm going to go ahead and purchase this, have my father test it out, as well as some other low-cost solutions. And let's see what happens, if it's a good product or not.
So that sound in the background that's some stuff that Rachel and Jada would have fixed, so you wouldn't have so much background. I'm not smart enough to know how to do that. So what did you like? So why did you like that hearing aid?
So there's different things you're looking at with hearing aids. One, is it compatible Bluetooth with your phone, right? So when the phone rings, can you just answer it with your hearing aid to act as a headset? That's huge, right? And so that one in particular, I believe, has the Bluetooth enabled. I think the next one we're going to look at does not have the Bluetooth enabled in one of the versions. So make sure, if you're out there searching for hearing aids, that you're looking to see if it is compatible with your phone. That's important.
Yeah. So there was a lot of very specific age tech stuff inside the age tech collaborative that ARP sponsored. The one other thing I would say about that is they had a stage there. They had lots and lots of terrific speakers who were there, including several people who were senior living folks, which is really a first. And so that was absolutely, we just are seeing senior living and age tech is coming to the fore. And it sort of makes sense, right? Because boomers are the dominant population group and they have all the money right now. And so it makes sense that there's a lot more focus in that area. Let's take a look at the other hearing aid that you and I looked at together.
Brian, tell me the difference in technology of the low-cost version versus the $599.
So essentially, your low-cost version will feature volume control and then 2 scene adjustments for normal mode, and then kind of like a restaurant or kind of space mode. It helps it to focus more on the person that you're talking to. And then we have a software update that we're rolling out later this year that will allow you to fine-tune low, medium, and high frequency, to more custom tailored to your hearing loss.
Well, and that sounds like it's a really good deal for $599 to have all of those added features.
Well, when you eliminate the middleman, right?
Yeah, and so that low cost, the $79 one is available through Walmart. And I just want to point out for senior living in particular, we tend to bring in a third party to do testing, to do hearing clinics, right? To do what the offerings are, which often are $3,000 and your insurance doesn't cover it. But I think there's opportunities here for a senior living company to say, hey, we want to make sure that every single resident in our building has access to these hearing aids, these low-cost hearing aids, that we are willing to either bring in that third party to have the fittings, or even have our nurse on staff help them with picking out the right hearing aid for them, right? Because hearing is such an important part of quality of life.
So the couple of, I absolutely agree with that. And I think there are so many other opportunities. I didn't do video on, there were two things I saw that I thought, man, this would be, so actually three things. One, I do have a little bit of video, not today on, but the first one is that there was a company that has this little kiosk that they can put in malls. It can be roll anywhere. And you come up to it and you do an eye test. And it will actually spit out your glasses prescription. And I wonder how many residents we have in senior living who don't have current prescriptions because nobody's really thinking about it, and we sort of assume they can't see anyway. And I just have this vision of being able to, an optometrist rolling this in for a day, residents coming through, and they actually can take a look at your glasses and see whether the prescriptions are still accurate, and then be in a position to actually do glasses for residents. Another one is a booth where you can actually do a teledoc visit, and mostly for rural underserved areas. But again, leave that up for just a second. I look at this and I think, man, there are some companies that bring physicians in, but what if you could just do this telemedicine? And this booth has got all these testing devices, and so you can hook up devices and really do a pretty thorough exam without having to have a doctor. And so we so much opportunity. So what about hearing loss and dementia? Lola?
Oh, well, here, so we have Ethel, who has said there's a correlation between hearing loss and dementia. And what I mentioned earlier is that often people are diagnosed with dementia, but in reality, they have a hearing issue. There's all sorts of things that could go sideways with all these diagnoses. You go to the hearing doctor, you say, I can't hear, but really it's a dementia that you need to be going to a different doctor. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for better understanding these relationships between between falling, or there's a relationship between your balance and dementia, right? And I anticipate there's going to be an AI that comes out, and it's probably already out, that you put in all of your symptoms and it spits out what the most likely diagnosis you should have. It's just how do you get a doctor to listen to that when you come in with this piece of paper that you printed out from your computer that says, hey, these are my diagnoses.
Well, I recently had some blood tests done. And I had a couple of values that were below normal. And so I actually printed out a PDF of it, and then ran it into ChatGPT and said, what should I be thinking about, worried about? And it looked at it and it said, your values are a little low, watch them, but don't worry, you're not going to die anytime soon, which was kind of good. So there are lots of things you can do already in that respect. I want to take a look at a couple of videos that you shot of me. The first one we're going to change order a little bit here, Jada. I want to actually look at the glasses one. This is really fascinating. My hearing, I was fascinated with Lola's journey down the hearing aid side because it's an area that I'm struggling with a bit. And in my house, we normally have closed caption on, and it's not very good. So let's watch this. So I'm at this little, we're in the AARP Tech, what do they call it? Tech Collaborative. Lots of companies that are doing really interesting things. This is one of the ones that's really intrigued me. So this is probably the clunkiest pair of glasses that you've ever seen. But what it does is you need to think of it as being closed caption, right? So you put these on, and I can listen. You can talk to me. It translates the words. Think about closed caption on TV, and it's frustrating because it gets the words wrong, and there's this huge delay. These glasses don't have that. You can have a conversation with me. Lola, who's behind the camera filming right now, she could be talking to me. I could be reading her words, and they'd come out, and she'd think I was actually listening to her when I was doing it, reading. But it works on TVs, in pretty much any place.
Oh, you're muted, Steve. There you go.
Yeah,
okay.
It's probably one of my very favorite things that I saw there. The other thing that's really neat about it is that it does not need the internet to work. It's got one huge drawback, though.
The price.
The price is $5,000.
$5,000, but it includes your lenses. So whatever your prescription is, they send them to you with your prescription in it.
Well, you know what I want is I'm doing a keynote here in Sacramento in about 3 weeks, and I'm thinking, man, I could use that as a they're not set up to do that, but I could use that as a teleprompter. And there are actually several people who have similar kinds of technology where you can see things like the glasses. So I think there's a lot of room to work. And my guess is the price will come down on these things. And you know, we say $5,000 is a lot of money. But you look at, you know, some of the well-to-do senior living residents, if their life is impacted, $5,000 actually isn't that much money.
Right. And I want to talk a little bit about the captions, right? Because as you mentioned, you turn them on your TV. We do too, because it just makes a better viewing experience when you think you missed something. So this is me and my spouse, right? I say, what did they just say? He said, I don't know. And then and then all of a sudden we missed the next, minute of what the dialogue was. But with the closed captions on, we can actually just read, and no longer do we have to ask each other what they said on TV.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I actually think that, we've seen the Google glasses from several years ago that didn't really go anyplace. But I think there's a lot to be done in glasses technology that we haven't really spent time looking at. I use an Otter for all my Zoom meetings, and it gives me a transcript plus a summary. And most of the time I don't go look at it, but sometimes it's super, super valuable. There's a company that is getting ready to put it out on crowdsourcing, but it's actually an earbud where it does the same thing. And so it can capture your phone conversations and everything. And so so much stuff out there. One other, speaking of earbuds, one other video that I would like to take a look at is, so as we look, as the healthcare industry looks to, this is earbud body sensor, Jada, so you can cue that up. The one thing that, one of the big challenges that health sensor technology faces is blood pressure. So if you've been in the hospital and they need to monitor your blood pressure, they've got a cuff that just sits on your arm all the time, and every, half an hour or hour, you're sitting there and it starts blowing up and it takes your blood pressure. And nobody's been able to really figure out how to do blood pressure on an ongoing basis. And of course, if somebody's really active, blood pressure means nothing. So blood pressure only really counts. And so maybe these guys have it. Take a look. This is actually one of the more interesting pieces of technology I've seen. You're solving a problem that people are really struggling with, being able to get these body measurements. And you can actually do things like heart rate and blood pressure?
Yeah, blood pressure.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about what it is that you do. So first off, let's hold this up so you can see.
Yeah.
It's an earbud essentially, right?
Yeah, these are regular active noise cancellation earbuds, and we can use these to monitor your heart health. And the way we can do that is our body is constantly emitting low frequency sound signals from your ears. We're just capturing that acoustic signal, and that signal has rich information about your heart health. So you can know your heart rate variability, and also blood pressure from that signal.
Oh, Steve, you got to unmute.
Again, there we go. There's more to all of these videos, and I think maybe we'll try to figure out how to make these available for people to watch afterwards, the longer versions of them. But it was a great experience. The other thing that I guess I saw was a lot of conversation about AI. And AI is a tool to interpret data, and so I see that as hugely valuable. And the other thing is a ton of people working on sensor technology.
Well, the AI, for example, I went in the Amazon booth. It's very elaborate. It's like a full house, right? You start from walking into the living room and your desk area, your office, and then you come around to the garage where the car is. And so Amazon Alexa is embedded in a lot of new technologies and in old technologies as well. BMW has a relationship with Amazon now, and so all the new BMWs will have Alexa built in, so it's voice enabled. So AI is doing a lot more than just data collecting. It's personas who are personal assistants, right? Even with my brand new iPhone I just got over the holiday, I have 4 different new voice options for Siri, and I like the original Siri voice. So we'll see a lot more personal assistants come out as well.
Great. Now, the other thing you looked at was sleep technology.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So first off, I have to tell you that I am completely invested in sleep technology. I have sleep apnea, and I'm also an insomniac. So it's really hard for me to fall asleep. And I've tried a CPAP. It didn't work for me. So I do other apps with calming music. I take a little muscle relaxant. Like I have a whole ritual of exercise and stretching, and I could go on and on. But my spouse snores. So here, insomniac, snorer, right? And then the dog snores too. So I have 2 snorers going on over here. So I was looking everywhere for what kind of sleep tech will improve my life and the millions of other people who also have sleep apnea or insomnia. And one of the devices is a pillow that has a roller ball in it that will readjust your position based on whether or not your breathing is regular, right? So if you have snoring or if you have any kind of apnea, it will auto adjust based on sensing your throat. Another technology, I spent a lot of time talking to a neuroscientist who developed something called Tone, which they're earbuds that are both sensors and they play music, but they sense which level of sleep you're in. If you're light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, it knows, and it will adjust the tones it's playing from music to white noise, and to help you stay asleep. Which I pre-ordered that. That was about $250 for those earphones. So wish me luck that it changes my life. The last thing I want to say about sleep is that we are very familiar with ResMed, who is the company that created the CPAP. And by the way, for senior living companies, if you have Matrix Care in your organization, that is owned by ResMed. So that most people know that, but just to know that ResMed has been purchasing up technologies within senior living. So they no longer want to be known as the CPAP company. They want to be known as the sleep health company. So they had a really super cool booth with avatars and taking the sleep quiz, and they've really gamified it. So keep your eyes open. If you are suffering from any kind of sleep trouble, please know that there are solutions out there. And the Sleep Association of America, or the Sleep Foundation of America, wants to push sleep management to the #1 position of what you need to be paying attention for your well-being. So it goes sleep, nutrition, then physical health. So that the sleep really can aid in your health span. So not just your lifespan, but your health span and your quality of life.
Yeah. So we're about out of time here. Sort of last words about CES. Well, are there any things that you did that you do differently
At CES?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many restaurants and you just spend so much money. Like, um, I guess I would download the app because I didn't do that. And I would have mapped out better what I needed to where I needed to go, right? And make sure that I did take the bus to the convention center so that I didn't miss that. The pacing yourself, right? Because it takes a lot of energy. So how do you have rest in the middle of the day? What I did this year that I didn't do last time I went was I filled my bag full of protein bars. Like, because you gotta have your energy.
Yeah, and you get lots of steps in. And I think the other thing I found was that I took some time where I just had to sit. And it made a big difference. And you just have all these serendipitous kinds of experiences. There's somebody who I had met, again, like you, people that I met through LinkedIn that I had never met in person. And it was the end of the day, I guess the first day of the trade show, and we were sitting talking, and then just outside a restaurant, and then somebody else came along that I knew, and they said, "Hey, let's go have dinner," and we ended up with this wonderful conversation. And so you just never know. And the other thing I would just say is that it'll be a better experience if you're willing to go up to walk up to people and go, "Hi, I'm Steve. What do you do?" It's one of those places where "what do you do" is probably the best opening line, or "what are you passionate about?" I have traditionally, I always said CES is something I'm going to do every 2 or 3 years, but it's moving a lot closer to being a every year kind of event. I guess the thing that I find myself pausing a little bit about, and we're going to have at least one operator who was who was there. But if I were an operator, would you you've worked in an opera, you continue to work in on the for a operator, do some work for operators. Did you walk away from anything there saying, "Oh man, this is something that we ought to have in our senior living communities"?
I mentioned that we need to pay more attention to accessibility when it comes to hearing aids for our residents. But there's a lot of things like that we should be paying attention to, just for quality of life sake. At the enterprise level, if we're looking at telehealth solutions or anything like that, nothing that's really flushed out, because here's the fear of an operator investing in a new technology. What if it's gone in 2 years, right? It takes so much effort to just get the contract signed and to have the launch meeting and then to roll out the technology. And so now you're 9 months into it, and you've managed the change, the workflow. And then 2 years later, the company either goes out of business or they get eaten up by another company and shelved. Like, it's just scary for an operator to look at something and go, it's not yet time for me to invest in this. But there are companies out there that have innovation labs that are willing to test it and pilot it and try it out in one community to see if it works, and maybe even invest in that tech company. But I do, just like I've been saying for the last couple of years, we're going to see a lot more consolidation and acquisitions. We need companies to offer multiple products. We can't hire 12 different companies. They need to be on one platform.
Yeah, it's technology for age tech for senior living is frankly really, really messy. We're probably 10 years away from seeing serious consolidation. But it is making the lives of residents better. It's really exciting. I think for me, and the reason I think senior living operators ought to be at CES is it just helps you to be forward thinking. You see something and you say, "Well, I'm not sure I'm ready to put that in my community, but maybe if it did this and this," or it inspires me to think about something else I can do, and it becomes super, super powerful. So,
and because AARP is so invested in this at CES with all of the age tech, there's an opportunity for operators to have a better relationship with AARP, because I mean, even talking to some of the people at AARP, they use language that we don't use within senior living. And so I think there needs to be a better relationship between our industry and AARP.
yeah, we've traditionally been pretty hostile towards AARP because they're so big about staying at home. And home's not really, I mean, home is our biggest competition, but it's not really our enemy. And there are a lot of people who are better off at home than they are in senior living. But that doesn't mean senior living doesn't play a really important role. So anyway, Lola, thanks. It was so much fun to hang out there with you. I guess we'll have to do it again next year.
Absolutely. See you later.
Great. Hang on after the show. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to be back on Friday for Foresight TV. Having a great conversation on workplace culture and drama-free teams with my good friend, Dennis McEntee.